My mother-in-law called me good for nothing. Then I became her boss. Patricia's laugh cut through the dinner table like a knife. We were all sitting there, Ethan, his sisters, his cousins, when she tapped her wine glass and said loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "Nora is still job hunting?" Poor Ethan married a charity case. Everyone laughed. Even the kids. My face felt hot, but I kept my smile. I didn't trust my voice, not with how hard my heart was beating. Finally I said, "Actually, I have an interview tomorrow." Patricia waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "Sweetie, you need skills first." More laughter. I swallowed the sting and poked at my food. She had always talked down to me, but this time felt worse, like she wanted to break something inside me. Ethan cleared his throat. "Mom, that's enough." But she talked over him. "I just want what's best for my boy. He works so hard, and someone in the house needs to lift their weight." Her words echoed in my chest. Good for nothing. Wait. Lazy. Charity case. I felt all of them land at once. Inside, something sharp formed. I didn't show it, but I felt it grow stronger with every second. Patricia leaned toward her sister and whispered loudly enough on purpose. Some women were made for success, others for staying home. I looked at her, but this time I didn't look away. She had no idea her little joke was about to change everything. When dinner ended, I helped clear the plates, mostly to get away from everyone's eyes. As I stepped into the hallway with a stack of dishes, I heard Patricia's voice drifting from the living room. She was talking to her friends again. "She's lazy," she said. "Lives off my son. Good for nothing, really. Ethan deserves a woman with ambition." My chest tightened, and I froze mid-step. Lazy. After everything I had been through the past year? After all the nights I cried myself to sleep trying to rebuild my career? She didn't even know me. Her friend asked, "Does she even try to work?" "Oh, she tries," Patricia said, laughing. "But some people are better at pretending." My grip tightened around the plates. I whispered to myself, "We'll see about lazy." For the first time, I felt something shift inside me. Not shame. Not fear. Something else, quiet and sharp. I put the dishes down and walked back toward the voices. I didn't show myself. I didn't need to. Hearing them talk like that while I stood only a few feet away lit a fire that burned deep. I wanted to walk in and defend myself, but instead I stepped back. I listened. Every cruel word was fuel. Every insult was a match. Patricia kept talking, unaware that I heard all of it, unaware that the woman she dismissed as good for nothing already had everything she needed to prove her wrong. She had no clue the storm she had just started. The next morning, I sat at my small kitchen table with my laptop open. Sunlight spilled across the screen, lighting up the resume I had spent weeks perfecting. Patricia thought I had no skills. She thought I was sitting at home doing nothing. She had no idea who I really was. I reread the top lines. Certified Project Management Specialist. 5 years experience in systems coordination. Consultant for 3 major firms. Then I opened the email I had received the night before. A job offer. A real one. A contract from a major firm asking to meet me today. I scrolled to the bottom, and my breath caught. The firm was Patricia's company. A slow smile spread across my face. All her mocking, all her jokes, all her comments about me being useless. Yet her own company wanted me. Not as a junior worker. Not as an assistant. As a specialist. My heart raced. This wasn't just an interview. This was a door opening, one she didn't even know I was walking through. I closed the laptop and whispered, "We'll see who's good for nothing." I grabbed my blazer, checked my hair in the hallway mirror, and headed out. Patricia didn't believe in me, but her company did, and by the time she found out, everything would already be in motion. When I arrived at the tall glass building, I almost laughed. I had seen photos of Patricia's company, but standing in the lobby felt surreal. Bright lights, shiny floors, people rushing everywhere. I sat on one of the gray chairs in the waiting area, trying to look calm even though my stomach fluttered. Then the elevator dinged. Patricia stepped out. Her heels clicked across the floor as she breezed past reception. She didn't even glance at me. She almost brushed my shoulder as she walked by, talking loudly on her phone about her big meeting and slow employees. If she had looked at me for even a second, she would have frozen. But she didn't. She didn't even consider I could be here. A moment later, The HR director stepped into the lobby and smiled warmly. Nora Bennett! I stood. Yes. We're glad you came. We've been looking for someone exactly like you. Exactly like me. I almost laughed again. We walked past Patricia, who was still talking, unaware that the woman she mocked last night was walking into an interview that could change everything. Upstairs, the HR director told me I was being considered for a top consulting role, one that would place me high in company operations. Important work. Real influence. They wanted to keep my interview private until board approval. Inside, something bright sparked. This was bigger than I imagined. And Patricia had no clue. The HR director led me into a conference room with big windows and a long table. She set down a stack of papers. To be honest, Nora, the company is in trouble, she said. Outdated systems. Low morale. Lots of tension between departments. I nodded, listening closely. Every detail made Patricia's bragging at family dinners seem even more ridiculous. She always talked like the company ran perfectly because she was there. Hearing the truth felt like another mask of hers cracking. We need someone calm, smart, and organized, HR said. Someone who can fix this mess. I leaned forward. And you think I can? She smiled. Your record says you already have. As she went through the job outline, I realized the role wasn't small at all. I wasn't going to be some assistant or intern. They wanted me as a senior transformation consultant, the person who would evaluate every department and help clean up the mess. And one more thing, HR added. Your hiring process will stay confidential until the board signs off. Some people here resist change. It's best to avoid drama until we're ready. Drama? She had no idea. I signed the last form, feeling my heart race. This wasn't just a job. This was a chance to grow, to prove myself, to rise without anyone's permission. As I left the building, I whispered to myself, Patricia has no idea what's coming. And she didn't. Not yet. That evening, while I was slicing vegetables for dinner, the front door swung open. Patricia stepped inside without knocking, like always. She looked around the kitchen and wrinkled her nose. Still cooking the same simple meals, I see, she muttered. I kept chopping. Hi, Patricia. She walked closer, eyeing my clothes. Is that what you wore today? That shirt looks tired. You should try something more flattering. I kept my voice steady. I was working on something big. She laughed, loud and sharp. Dream smaller, dear. You'll be less disappointed. Her words stung, but this time they didn't sink in the same way. I knew something she didn't, and knowing it gave me strength. She leaned against the counter. Honestly, Nora, I don't know how you plan to get hired anywhere. You don't have the drive for a real career. Ethan works all day while you... I cut her off by setting the knife down gently. Patricia, I'm trying. She waved me off. Trying isn't doing. Inside, something burned hotter. She didn't know about the meeting. She didn't know I had already signed forms. She didn't know the company she bragged about needed someone like me more than they ever needed her. I pressed my lips together. You might be surprised, I said quietly. She laughed again, shaking her head. Oh, Nora, you're not built for big things. But I was. And soon she would see it. The next morning, I woke to an email from HR, offer approved. Start date Monday. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking, not from fear but from relief, from excitement, from power I hadn't felt in a long time. My title would be Head of Operations Revitalization, a real leadership position, a real chance to make change. I whispered, let the games begin. The weekend flew by in a blur. I cleaned my closet, ironed my best suits, bought a notebook, and practiced my introduction in the mirror. I imagined walking through the building with confidence. I imagined Patricia seeing me. Oh yes, that moment would come. Sunday night, Ethan noticed my energy. You seem different, he said. I smiled. Something good is happening. He kissed my forehead. I'm glad. You deserve something good. I wanted to tell him everything, but I held back. Not yet. I needed the moment to land at the right time. As I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, I imagined the look on Patricia's face when she saw me at her workplace. She would freeze, maybe choke on her own surprise, maybe try to pretend she wasn't shocked. I wasn't going to gloat. I wasn't going to rub it in. I would simply exist in the place She believed I never belonged. And that alone would be enough to shake her world. Monday morning arrived, bright and cold. I dressed in a fitted navy suit, tied my hair back neatly, and slipped on shoes that clicked confidently on the floor. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the charity case Patricia joked about. I saw someone ready. At the building, I walked through the glass doors right behind 3 employees. Patricia's voice echoed from down the hall before I even saw her. "My useless daughter-in-law is probably still in pajamas," she bragged to her coworkers. "Some people just can't keep up." The doors to the conference area opened. I stepped inside. Her words stopped mid-sentence. She stared at me, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. Her coworkers turned to look too. I smiled politely. "Morning, Patricia." She blinked. What are you doing here?" "Orientation," I said simply. HR appeared right on cue. "Nora, come with me, please." The whole hallway went silent. Patricia stood frozen, clutching her coffee cup like it might fall from her hand. Whispers spread quickly behind me. "Is that her daughter-in-law? Why is she here? Did she get hired?" I didn't look back. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, I felt the balance shift, just slightly, but enough for me to breathe easier. And this was only the beginning. By lunchtime, the whole building buzzed. I heard it in the hallways, the elevator, even the restroom. People whispered about me. Ethan's wife, the woman Patricia always mocked. The good-for-nothing newcomer who had suddenly appeared beside HR and senior staff. I kept my head high and focused on my tour. But the tension grew thicker every hour. When I stepped into the break room for water, Patricia walked in. She stopped, staring at me like she was hoping I would disappear. I smiled politely. "Hello again." Her voice cracked. "Nora, why are you really here?" "Orientation," I repeated, just as calm as before. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "You didn't tell anyone." "No one asked," I said. HR popped in a moment later. "Ready for the next step, Nora?" I nodded and turned away, leaving Patricia standing there with her anger trying to hide behind confusion. The moment I left the room, whispers chased after us, some excited, some shocked, some nervous. By the end of the day, Patricia was pacing around her desk, muttering, "Over my dead body. She can't be anything important." But HR overheard her and smiled. "Then you'd better stay healthy." I walked past as she said it. I didn't laugh. But inside, something warm and fierce grew stronger. The power shift had just begun. The rumor storm only grew stronger by the next morning. I felt it the moment I entered the lobby, people glancing, whispering, pretending not to look at me. As I rode to the upper floors with HR, I caught pieces of conversations floating down hallways. Is Patricia's daughter-in-law our new boss? Did HR hire her in secret? Patricia must be losing her mind. They weren't wrong. Patricia was unraveling. At lunch, I sat in the cafeteria with my notebook, reviewing onboarding tasks. A group of employees nearby kept stealing looks my way. Finally, one leaned over and whispered, "Are you really related to Patricia?" I smiled gently. "By marriage." The table erupted with quiet groans. "Oh, that must be hard," one muttered. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, Patricia walked into the cafeteria. The whole room went silent for a heartbeat. She scanned the space, saw me, and her jaw tightened. She marched to a table across the room, pretending she didn't care. But the whispers chased her like shadows. People were putting the pieces together faster than she expected. HR approached me mid-meal. "People talk," she said softly. "But let them. They'll learn soon enough." I nodded, feeling the tension collect in the air like a storm. This was the shift, the moment the story began to turn. And just before HR walked away, she whispered, "We should prep for the board meeting." The real twist was coming. No one was ready. My first real task began early the next morning. HR handed me a thick binder labeled Department Audit Access. I spent the next few hours going through spreadsheets, charts, and reports. It didn't take long to see the truth. Patricia's division was a mess. The lowest numbers, the worst deadlines, the most staff complaints. I stared at the pages, my heart beating slow and heavy. Of course it was her department. Of course she strutted around the company acting perfect, while everything under her was crumbling. But this wasn't personal. Not yet. This was my job, and I was good at my job. I took notes, marking patterns, errors, and strange bonus adjustments that didn't match actual work. Anyone else might have missed them. I didn't. Later, when I walked through her floor for observation rounds, everyone suddenly stood straighter. Some even smiled at me. Women whispered behind me, "She's so calm. She actually listens." Thank goodness someone new is looking at things. Patricia watched from her glass office, stiff as a statue. Her eyes narrowed as I made my rounds. She didn't say a word, but her glare followed me like a hook. She thought I was just Ethan's wife, wandering around. She didn't know I had clearance. She didn't know the audit started with her. By the time I left her floor, I knew one thing. If she had treated her staff the way she treated me, her problems were deeper than she knew. And soon, the whole company would know it too. Over the next few days, I met with every team. As I moved through departments, people relaxed around me. I listened, took notes, and asked simple questions that made them feel seen. I didn't act like a boss. I acted like a person. Employees responded fast. They trusted me. But Patricia did not. Every time she saw someone smiling at me, she stiffened. Every time she heard someone compliment my work ethic, her frown deepened. In one meeting, someone whispered, "She's so different from Patricia, so calm." Another said, "She actually helps, not just gives orders." I saw Patricia in the hallway that afternoon. She muttered to her coworker, "She's pretending to be competent. Just wait. She'll slip." But I didn't slip. I only got better. Her own team members even approached me quietly. "Can we talk to you about something?" She ignores our feedback. She blames us when things go wrong. I wrote everything down, not to hurt Patricia, but because it was my job. This was the company's truth, not my revenge. Every hour I worked, her anger grew sharper. I could feel it in the hallways, like a cold breeze that followed me around corners. The more respect I earned, the more she felt it slipping from her hands. And she wasn't wrong. Things were shifting. People could sense change coming. And Patricia hated change, especially when it wasn't hers. 3 days into the audit, I walked into the company cafeteria for lunch. Trays clattered, people chatted, chairs scraped, but everything quieted a little when I stepped in. Not in a bad way, just curious. I grabbed a sandwich and headed to an empty table. Minutes later, Patricia strutted in. She spotted me instantly. Her eyebrows shot up like she had found a bug sitting in her favorite spot. She walked over slowly, pretending she didn't care. "Coffee is free for real employees," she said loudly, making sure the tables nearby heard. I took a sip of my drink and smiled. "I'll expense it," I said calmly. "Company approved." Her face twitched. A few workers choked on their laughter. She leaned in. "You don't belong here, Nora." I tilted my head. "Funny. HR says I do." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. She turned sharply and sat with her usual group, muttering something about needing new hiring standards. But people weren't listening to her anymore. Their eyes kept drifting to me. Some nodded. Some whispered. Some smiled with quiet excitement. Patricia had spent years building fear and control, and now the room didn't move the way she expected. After lunch, HR approached me and whispered, "Keep steady. She's noticing." Oh, she was noticing. But this was nowhere near the moment she would break. That moment would come much later. At home that evening, Ethan watched me carefully as I folded my blazer. He finally asked, "Nora, is something going on between you and my mom?" I paused. "Why do you ask?" "She's been calling me all day," he sighed, "saying you're acting strange, saying you're trying to compete with her at work. You both promised not to mix family and company stuff." I looked at him. I loved him, but he had no idea what his mother had been doing behind his back for years. "I didn't start anything," I said. "Your mom started that long before this week." He rubbed his forehead. "I just want peace. Can you two try to get along?" Peace. The word felt heavy. I wanted peace too, but not the kind where only one person gets to speak, and the other must stay small. Not the kind Patricia demanded, where she held the crown and everyone else bowed. I touched Ethan's hand. "I'm doing my best." He squeezed my fingers. "Okay. I trust you." His trust warmed me and hurt me, because soon he would learn truths about his mother that he wasn't ready for. As he went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my notes. The numbers didn't lie. Patricia wasn't just messy at work, she was dishonest. And the deeper I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about family conflict. This was about integrity. And the cracks were about to widen. The next morning, HR sent a building-wide memo, mandatory performance reviews next week. Patricia strutted into the halls bragging, "I always get top marks. I'll destroy whoever tries to judge my department." But when the review committee list was posted, she froze. My name was right there. Nora Bennett, Senior Review Committee. Her face turned pale, then red, then pale again. She stormed into her office and slammed the door, so hard the glass rattled. Later that afternoon, she approached HR, pretending to be calm. "There must be some mistake," she said. "Nora has no experience. She can't review me." HR smiled politely. "Nora was hired for her expertise. She has full clearance." Patricia's mouth twitched. "She'll be biased. We trust her professionalism," HR replied simply. Patricia glared across the open floor at me, her anger sharp enough to feel through the windows. I kept working quietly, reviewing files. Inside, a small knot tightened. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted fairness. But Patricia didn't understand fairness. She understood only one thing, control. And now, her son's good-for-nothing wife had power she never expected. The performance review would reveal everything. Not because I planned revenge, but because she had buried her problems for years. It was time they were uncovered. As the audit deepened, I uncovered something I didn't expect. In Patricia's financial records, I noticed numbers that didn't match. Hours logged that didn't exist. Bonuses that didn't line up with performance. I leaned closer to the screen, reading line after line. There, 3 clients billed for extra hours. All approved by Patricia. All without real work. It wasn't just sloppy. It wasn't just careless. It was dishonest. I opened a new file and quietly downloaded copies. Not to use against her personally, but because this was company policy. Evidence mattered. Numbers mattered. Truth mattered. For a few minutes, I sat staring at the screen, feeling my heart pound. Patricia had called me lazy, useless, worthless. Yet she was the one cutting corners and falsifying numbers. The irony hit hard. Later that day, as I walked to the elevator, 2 staff members whispered as I passed. "She's so thorough. She's exactly what we needed." Their approval felt warm, but it also made me nervous. This was bigger than me now. Bigger than family drama. This was her career. When I stepped out of the elevator, I caught Patricia glaring at me from her office. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know what. But soon as she would find out. The next morning, my office door slammed open. Patricia stormed in, heels stabbing the floor. "Stay out of my department," she hissed. I didn't flinch. "I'm in charge of every department." She stopped. Just stopped. The sentence hit her like a brick. Her eyes widened, mouth falling open slightly. "You? They put you in charge." I sat up straighter. "They hired me to fix the company. That includes your division." She shook her head. No, this is ridiculous. You're doing this to embarrass me." I spoke calmly. "I'm doing my job." She stepped closer. "You're nothing but Ethan's wife. You don't belong here." I met her eyes. This company hired me before I married Ethan. Her breath caught. She hadn't known that. She hadn't even imagined it. For a moment, her face showed fear. Real fear. Then anger covered it again. "You think you can take me down," she whispered. "I think everyone should be held to the same standard," I said. She stormed out without another word, slamming the door so loud the frame shook. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't personal, not yet. But she had just made it personal. And from this moment on, nothing would ever be the same. Later that afternoon, HR called me into a private meeting. The director looked uneasy. "Nora, I need to warn you." "Patricia, she's protected." "Protected how?" I asked. "The CEO's golf buddy is her husband," HR whispered. "And her husband has influence. Real influence. If she feels cornered, she'll use it." I nodded slowly. "Of course. Power circles. Friends in high places. She'll fight you," HR added. "She'll make noise. She has connections." I closed my notebook. Good thing I play chess, not golf. HR blinked, then laughed softly. Just be careful. People like her don't go down quietly. I thought about that on my way back to my office. Patricia had always used her status to intimidate people. She didn't care about fairness. She cared about winning. But this wasn't a family argument. This wasn't a dinner table insult. This was a company investigation. And the truth didn't need connections. Still, HR's warning kept echoing. If Patricia felt threatened, she'd strike. She'd twist the story, paint herself as the victim, use every friend she had. But I had something stronger, evidence, patience, and a plan already forming in my mind. She played with fear. I played with facts. And facts always win in the end. That night, I sat at my desk long after everyone had gone home. The office lights buzzed softly as I built the biggest project plan of my career. I called it Project Integrity. It was a restructuring plan for the entire company, new systems, new checks, new workflows. But hidden beneath the clean charts and timelines was a trail of patterns that would expose Patricia's mismanagement without mentioning her name once. No accusations. No blame. Just facts. Her department's missing hours, broken systems, and weak reports would shine bright when compared with everyone else's. Anyone reading the plan would see exactly who caused the biggest problems. I wasn't making it personal. I wasn't attacking her. I was showing the truth. And the truth was sharp. As I typed, my heart beat steady and strong. This was what I was good at, fixing broken things. Building order from chaos. Creating paths forward. When I saved the document, I whispered to myself, this isn't revenge. This is responsibility. Still, a small part of me felt satisfaction. I wouldn't lie. Patricia created her own downfall. I was only turning on the light. 2 days later, something unexpected happened. The board received an early copy of my draft. Not from me. Not from HR. Someone leaked it. I froze when I heard the news. But the HR director smiled. Don't worry, Nora. The data speaks for itself. That was the problem. The anonymous data showed every department's performance. And Patricia's numbers stood out like a bruise. Her mistakes were clear. Her false billing was suspicious. Her weak leadership was obvious. By noon, whispers spread across every floor. Patricia's department looks terrible. Who let this happen? Why didn't she fix anything? Patricia stomped through hallways, furious. She cornered 2 coworkers demanding answers. Who leaked this? Who's trying to ruin me? But no one knew. And no one defended her. She stormed past my office, glanced inside, and glared like she wanted to break something. I kept typing. Calm. Focused. She couldn't blame me. There was no evidence. Only numbers. And numbers didn't lie. The next phase was coming fast, faster than she expected. And soon, the whole company would watch the power shift in real time. The board meeting was set for Friday morning. Everyone walked into work, buzzing like bees in a shaken hive. I saw the way people straightened their clothes and lowered their voices. Something big was about to happen, and they all felt it. When I stepped off the elevator, Patricia was already in the hallway, whispering fiercely to her closest friend. They're reorganizing departments. They'd never pick her. Never. Her friend didn't answer. She only looked down the hallway at me with wide, unsure eyes. I greeted them politely. Patricia's lips tightened, so hard they turned white. Inside the boardroom, faces looked tense. The CEO cleared his throat. We have urgent matters to discuss. Department performance, budget loss, and leadership restructuring. Patricia sat straighter, smoothing her blouse like she was preparing for applause. I kept my hands folded on my lap, calm and quiet. But inside, my heart thudded like a drum. The CEO continued. Several divisions underperformed this year. One in particular showed concerning patterns. Patricia shifted in her chair. Charts flashed on the screen. Numbers, graphs, timelines. All neutral. But anyone with eyes could see which division sank the lowest. Her division. Patricia whispered sharply. They're twisting the numbers. No one answered. The tension reached a breaking point, and the CEO closed the laptop. We'll name interim leaders shortly, he said. Be prepared. Everyone held their breath. Even Patricia. Even me. We were seconds from the moment everything changed. When the board reconvened after a short break, the room fell silent. The CEO stood at the front, hands clasped, shoulders tight. HR stepped beside him with a stack of folders. "Thank you all for your patience," HR said. "Today we introduce our new interim director of operations." Patricia pressed her hands together, lifting her chin as if preparing to stand. The CEO smiled. "Please welcome." The doors opened at that moment, and HR gestured toward me. "Nora Bennett." Gasps rippled through the room. Chairs creaked. A few people actually choked on air. Cameras clicked as corporate communications streamed the moment to internal feeds. I walked to the front, steady and calm. Inside, my heart fluttered like wings, but my face showed nothing but professionalism. Patricia's smile died. Fully. Slowly. Completely. Her body slumped back into her chair as if her strings had been cut. Ethan's mother, who called me useless, lazy, good for nothing, now watched me stand where she believed she deserved to be. I shook the CEO's hand. HR beamed. The board nodded. Employees peeked through the glass windows, jaws hanging open. When I turned toward the room to give my greeting, Patricia lowered her eyes. She couldn't look at me. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't pretend anymore. This moment wasn't just a promotion. It was the turning point of everything. I stepped up to the podium and looked around the boardroom. The weight of 100 eyes pressed on me, but I stood tall. "Thank you," I began. "Before we talk about plans, we must talk about accountability." The first slide lit up behind me, department performance charts. Neutral colors. Clean labels. No names. But the numbers spoke loudly, and everyone knew which department sat at the bottom. Patricia stared at the table, jaw clenched. I continued. Problems don't appear overnight. They grow when leaders ignore them. And our company deserves better than ignored problems. Whispers spread across the room. Some people nodded. Some looked nervous. Some glanced from me to Patricia, then back again. I clicked to the next slide. Missed deadlines, client complaints, system failures. Again, no names. But there was no hiding the truth. The air felt thick. Even the projector hummed louder. "Today marks the start of real change," I said. "We rebuild with honesty. We fix what's broken. And we hold every leader to the same standard, including myself." That final line sent a wave of respect through the room. People straightened, listening closer. Patricia, on the other hand, looked like she wanted to sink through the floor. Her world, woven with ego and control, was unraveling. And this was only the first thread pulled. The moment the meeting ended, Patricia shot to her feet. "This is nepotism," she shouted. "She married my son. This whole thing is unfair." HR turned calmly. "Actually, Nora was headhunted long before she married Ethan." A hush swept the entire room. One simple fact. One perfect mic drop. Patricia's lips trembled. She looked around, expecting someone, anyone, to defend her. But no one did. Even her closest friend stared at her hands. The CEO added, "The board reviewed her credentials. Her marriage had nothing to do with our decision." Patricia let out a bitter laugh, but it shook. "So this is how it is? You all want to embarrass me." I spoke gently. "This isn't about you. It's about fixing the company." Those words hit harder than any insult. Because they were true. Patricia's breathing turned fast and shallow. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. "You'll regret this," she snapped over her shoulder. But no one followed her. No one supported her. No one stopped me as I took my new seat at the head of the room. The shift was complete. Everyone, every employee, every board member, every silent watcher, saw the truth now. And Patricia knew it. The walls she built with arrogance were falling. And she couldn't stop it. When I left the building that evening, Patricia was waiting for me in the parking lot. She leaned against her car, arms crossed, eyes sharp like she'd been rehearsing a speech. As soon as I walked toward my car, she stepped forward. "You humiliated me," she hissed. "In front of the entire company." I stopped and faced her. "No, I didn't humiliate you." "You did." Her voice cracked. "You made me look like a fool." I shook my head. "You did that when you called me worthless." Silence. A long, painful silence. She blinked fast, as if she couldn't believe those words came from me. "You think you're better than me now," she whispered. I spoke softly but firmly. "No, I think I'm doing my job. And for years, you pretended I was nothing." Her shoulders sagged. For the first time, she looked small, like her power had been drained. "You're ruining everything," she said, voice shaking. "I'm fixing what's broken," I replied. "And none of this would be happening if you treated people the way you expect to be treated." Her mouth twisted. "I won't let you win." I met her eyes. "I'm not here to win. I'm here to work." She turned away, trembling with anger, humiliation, and fear. And that was the moment the real revenge began, the kind that grows slow, steady, unshakable. The kind she could never stop. If you're still here, hit subscribe for more true revenge stories, just like this one. The next morning began with tension thick enough to taste. I sat in my new office reviewing reports when HR knocked quietly. "Nora, the internal audit team has launched a formal investigation into Patricia's accounts." My breath caught, not in surprise, but in confirmation. "Already?" HR nodded. "The board wants answers quickly. Too many numbers don't line up." I thanked her, and when she left, I leaned back in my chair. This was no longer just a workplace issue. This was truth forcing itself into the light. Downstairs, I could hear raised voices drifting from Patricia's floor. Some staff defended her at first, out of fear, not loyalty. But the more the audit team dug, the faster people stepped back. By lunch, 3 coworkers who used to cling to Patricia's side wouldn't even meet her eyes. Someone whispered, "I knew something was off with her numbers." Another muttered, "She always blamed us, but she wasn't doing her part." That evening, Ethan sat on our couch, confused and tired. "Mom says the company is turning against her," he said. "Is it really that bad?" I sat beside him gently. "Ethan, people are finally seeing what she's been hiding." He looked down. "I don't want to believe my mom would do something wrong." "I know," I said softly, "but sometimes loving someone doesn't stop them from making choices that hurt others." For a moment, he just sat quietly, thinking, breathing, realizing. Patricia was losing her grip. And for the first time, Ethan was beginning to see who she truly was. Saturday evening, Patricia insisted on hosting a family dinner to clear the air. Ethan and I arrived to find the table set beautifully, candles glowing, food steaming. Anyone else would think it was a peaceful night. But I saw the stiffness in Patricia's smile. She lifted her glass. "To family unity," she said, her voice sweet but tight. I lifted mine too, keeping my expression steady. "And to professional integrity." Her hand froze midair. Ethan coughed into his napkin. The room fell silent. Patricia forced a laugh. "You always try to sound clever." I met her gaze. "Just honest." She clinked her glass harder than necessary. "Honesty is so rare these days, isn't it?" The way she said it made Ethan look at her sharply. "Mom, if this dinner is just another way to attack Nora." "It's not," she snapped, then smiled again, as if she could erase the tone. "I simply want peace." But peace wasn't what she wanted. She wanted control. She wanted the room to bend to her the way it always had. During dessert, she leaned close to me. "You need to back off," she whispered. "You're making me look bad." I kept my voice soft. "I'm not making you look bad. Your choices are." She stiffened. Across the table, Ethan watched us, understanding more than he ever had before. The moment cracked the last piece of the mask Patricia wore. And everyone felt it. This wasn't a dinner. It was the final calm before her downfall. On Monday morning, HR called me with urgency in her voice. "Nora, the audit team found something." I hurried to her office. She pointed to her screen, where 2 sets of spreadsheets glowed, one showing Patricia's reported hours, and one showing the real project logs. They didn't match, not even close. "She billed for work she didn't do," HR said quietly. "More than once." My chest tightened. This wasn't a small mistake. This was intentional. "We'll need you to send over the data trail you collected," she added. "Your notes line up with everything we found." I hesitated for a second, not because I doubted the truth, but because this meant the investigation was about to go public. Patricia would know I had documented the problems. She would know I saw everything she tried to hide. Still, I sent the files. Truth mattered more than fear. Within hours, the CEO ordered a disciplinary hearing. Notices went out. People buzzed. Patricia's name spread through the building like lightning. I passed her office once. She sat inside with her hands over her mouth, staring at her computer as if it had betrayed her. Her eyes were red. Her phone kept buzzing with messages she didn't answer. The same woman who once called me worthless now watched her entire career slip through her fingers. She didn't look powerful anymore. She looked scared. And this time, she had no one to blame but herself. The hearing took place in a glass conference room on the top floor. The entire leadership team gathered, the CEO at the head of a table. Patricia sat stiffly, dressed neatly, trying hard to look composed, but her shaking hands told the truth. The CEO began calmly. Patricia, we're here to review evidence of billing irregularities. She forced a smile. It's all a misunderstanding. They projected the first chart, her reported hours compared to actual client logs. The difference was impossible to explain away. Patricia's voice cracked. My team must have... No, the CEO said. Your team logged everything correctly. These approvals were yours. I was then asked to present my findings. I spoke clearly, simply, without emotion, side-by-side comparisons, timestamps, documents she signed. Patricia flinched at every slide. I didn't know. I wasn't thinking. You're twisting the story. The CEO leaned forward. Patricia, the evidence is factual. She looked around the room wildly. You're all turning against me. This is her fault. Nora hated me from the start. But HR shook her head. The audit began before Nora joined. Silence. Thick, cold, undeniable. Patricia's face crumpled as the truth settled. The CEO delivered the decision. You are suspended pending repayment and further review. Patricia gasped, covering her mouth. The hearing ended with her world collapsing around her, while I stood exactly where she never wanted me to stand. Not above her. Just equal. Finally equal. 3 days later, Patricia turned in her badge. She didn't wait for the final review. She didn't fight. She didn't shout. She simply resigned for health reasons. Everyone knew what that meant. Everyone knew why she left. I saw her as she packed her box, slow, quiet, tired. The woman, who once strutted through hallways, now moved like she was carrying years of weight on her shoulders. She glanced up when she noticed me. For a moment, anger flickered in her eyes, but something softer replaced it. Shame maybe, or understanding. I walked closer. Patricia! She swallowed hard. I suppose you're happy now. I shook my head. This isn't about happiness. She looked away. You always were better than I thought. I didn't argue. I didn't mock. I didn't gloat. Instead, I extended my hand. Take care of yourself. Her eyes watered. She didn't take my hand, but she nodded. Goodbye, Nora. As she walked out of the building, employees whispered, but not cruelly. Some even felt sorry for her. I watched her disappear through the glass doors. A long chapter had ended. Not with revenge, but with justice. And for the first time since joining the company, I felt the weight lift from my chest. My story was no longer about proving myself to her. It was about stepping into who I was meant to be. Hit subscribe if you want more stories where the truth rises above everything. A week after Patricia resigned, the CEO called me into his office. His expression was calm but warm, the kind he saved for good news. Nora, he said, the board has reviewed your leadership, your audit work, and your restructuring plan. We'd like to offer you the permanent director of operations position. My breath caught. Permanent. Not interim. Not temporary. Permanent. I sat slowly. I'm honored, I said. But if I accept, I want one condition. His eyebrows lifted. Name it. A mentorship program for women over 40, I said. Many of them get overlooked. I want to change that. The CEO smiled. You've got it. When I left his office, the building felt brighter. Staff congratulated me quietly. Some left little notes on my desk. Others simply nodded with respect as I passed. I remember the first day I walked in, just Ethan's wife, the woman Patricia mocked. Now, people saw me differently. They saw my work, my calm, my strength. Later, HR approached me in the hallway. You earned this, she said. Not through family, through skill. I smiled. Thank you. As I walked back to my office, I let the truth sink in. My journey hadn't started with wanting power. It started with wanting dignity. And now I had both. Not because someone gave it to me, but because I claimed it. The following days felt surreal. Everywhere I went, whispers followed, but these whispers were different now. She's the one who fixed the reporting system. She saved us from another bad quarter. She's so much better than Patricia ever was. The tone had shifted completely. Respect replaced doubt. Admiration replaced gossip. People asked me for guidance, not out of fear, but because they trusted me. One afternoon, I passed a group near the elevator. They didn't realize I could hear them. That's her, the DIL Patricia always mocked. Well, look who's running the place now. And doing a better job than anyone expected. I smiled to myself as I stepped inside the elevator. Not because I needed their approval, but because the truth had finally settled across the building like fresh air. Later, I sat in my office and read through new project proposals. The company felt lighter, more honest. People weren't scared to share ideas anymore. They were excited. During a meeting, one junior employee said, "Director Bennett, I feel like this is the first time leadership actually listens." Director Bennett. The title still felt new, but it fit. The gossip mill that once hurt me had changed direction. Patricia's old stories faded fast, replaced by something better, stories of growth, fairness, and a company healing from the inside out. And I knew one thing for sure, respect earned through truth lasts longer than fear earned through control. A week later, Patricia showed up at my office unannounced. She stood in the doorway holding a small purse, looking nothing like the confident woman who once filled rooms with her voice. Her eyes were tired, softer somehow. "Nora," she said quietly, "do you have a moment?" I nodded, gesturing for her to sit. She hesitated, but finally lowered herself into the chair. "I wanted to," she swallowed hard. "I wanted to apologize." The room went still. She looked down at her hands. "I misjudged you. From the beginning. I was hard on you. Cruel, even. I didn't say anything. I let her speak. I thought strength meant being in control," she whispered. "But you showed strength without shouting, without showing off, without hurting people." Her voice cracked. "Losing my job made me see how much I twisted things, and how unfair I was to you." For a moment, she looked like she might cry. I took a slow breath. "Patricia," I said gently, "you taught me resilience. I'm grateful for that." Her head lifted sharply, surprised. "I don't hate you," I continued. "I just needed space to be myself." Patricia wiped her eyes. "Thank you." She stood, steadier than before. "I'm trying to be better." "I believe you," I said. She left quietly, and for the first time, there was no anger between us. Only understanding. A few days later, Ethan and I attended a family barbecue at a sister's house. I wasn't sure what to expect. Whispers, stares, questions about Patricia. But the moment we walked in, people greeted me with warm smiles. "Nora, we heard you got promoted. Congratulations. You deserve it." It felt strange at first. These were the same people who once laughed at Patricia's jokes about me. Now, they looked at me with something new, respect. Ethan wrapped an arm around my waist. "See," he whispered. "Everyone's proud of you." I smiled. I guess they finally see me. During dinner, neighbors passed by the fence and whispered, "That's her, the new director." Some even offered congratulations. For a moment, I let myself breathe it all in. The fresh air, the smell of grilled food, the soft laughter of people who finally understood I wasn't weak or lazy. I was strong, steady, and capable. Later, Ethan's aunt approached me with a plate of dessert. "I'm sorry we didn't see your worth sooner," she said softly. "You've shown all of us something important." I smiled. "Thank you. It means a lot." For the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged, not because of who I married, but because of who I became. And that made the moment sweeter than any dessert on the table. That night, when we got home, Ethan pulled me close in the kitchen. The house was quiet, lit only by the warm glow of the stove light. "I'm proud of you," he said, brushing a hair from my cheek. "I always knew you'd rise." His words softened something inside me. I leaned into him. I just needed people to see what I could do. He nodded. "They see it now. Everyone does." We stood there for a long moment, letting the silence fill the space between us. Comfortable, gentle, real. I thought back to every insult Patricia threw at me. Every time I swallowed hurt instead of speaking. Every moment I questioned my worth because someone louder told me I had none. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I had proven myself, Not through revenge, but through strength. Ethan kissed my forehead. "I'm lucky you didn't give up," he whispered. I smiled. "I'm lucky I didn't give up on myself." He squeezed my hand. "What now?" "Now," I said, "we build something better. Together." It wasn't about her anymore. It wasn't about the past. It was about the future I finally felt strong enough to walk into without fear. And with Ethan beside me, it felt brighter than ever. Over the next few months, the company transformed. My new systems made work smoother. Communication improved. Mistakes dropped. Productivity rose. During staff meetings, people actually smiled now, real smiles, not the tight, fearful ones I saw on my first day. Departments worked together instead of blaming each other. The CEO stopped by my office one afternoon. "Nora," he said, "I don't know what magic you brought with you, but profits are up. Stress is down. You've changed this place." I laughed. "No magic. Just clarity." He nodded. "And compassion. Don't forget that part." Over time, employees began saying things like, "I finally feel heard. I actually like coming to work now." She fixed the culture Patricia broke. I didn't correct them. I didn't need praise, but it felt good to know the work mattered. Even the mentorship program took off. Older women, once overlooked, now held workshops and led projects with confidence they thought they had lost. One day, a senior analyst thanked me with tears in her eyes. "I thought my career was over," she said. "You gave me a second chance." Her words touched me deeply. This was the real victory. Not a title, not revenge, but impact. Patricia's shadow no longer hung over the company. Instead, a new culture grew, stronger, kinder, and ready for the future. Meanwhile, Patricia's life took a quieter turn. She began volunteering at a local community center, helping with food drives and tutoring adults in basic computer skills. When Ethan and I visited one weekend, I saw her through the window, sitting with an older woman, showing her how to type an email. Patricia's voice was soft, patient, nothing like the sharp tone she used to use at work. After the lesson, she stepped outside to meet us. She looked calmer, almost lighter. "I needed this," she said, gesturing toward the center. "Something simple. Something good." I nodded. "It suits you." She smiled faintly. "I used to think power was everything. But I was wrong. Helping people feels better." Later that month, as she watched a televised company awards ceremony, she saw me walk on stage to accept the Leadership Impact Award. The camera panned to the audience cheering. Patricia sat alone in her living room. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She simply clapped quietly. A small, humble clap, one filled with understanding instead of envy. She had changed too. Not perfectly, but honestly. And sometimes that's enough. The night I accepted the award, the crowd's cheers echoed in my ears. Lights flashed. Cameras clicked. But when I reached the microphone, all I felt was calm. I took a deep breath. "Thank you," I began. "This means more than I can say." Faces across the room glowed with pride. My team, HR, the CEO, employees who once doubted me but now trusted every decision I made. "I want to say something simple," I continued. "Never let anyone decide your worth. Not even family." A ripple went through the room. I smiled softly. People may call you names. They may underestimate you. They may try to shrink you to fit their comfort. But your value isn't up to them. It's up to you. Applause burst from the audience, loud and warm. "I stand here today not because I was treated kindly," I said, "but because I chose not to let unkindness define me." The standing ovation rose like a wave, bright, loud, unstoppable. As I stepped away from the podium, the CEO whispered, "That was powerful." But it wasn't power I felt. It was peace. Later that week, I visited my grandmother's old house, now quiet, filled with warm memories. I sat at her piano, gently pressing a few keys. The soft notes floated through the room like a familiar hug. Ethan joined me, sitting beside me on the bench. "Haven't seen you play in a while," he said. I smiled. I forgot how calming it feels. We sat in silence for a moment before he asked, "Do you ever think about everything you went through?" I nodded. "Sometimes. But not the pain. Not anymore." "What do you think about?" he asked. I ran my fingers across the keys. Funny how being called good for nothing led me to everything. He slipped his arm around my shoulders. She was wrong about you from the start. I leaned my head against him. Maybe. But her words pushed me to grow. To prove something, not to her but to myself. The music drifted softly as I played a simple tune. I wasn't the quiet woman who swallowed insults anymore. I wasn't the scared newcomer at a big company. I wasn't the shrinking daughter-in-law trying to please everyone. I was myself. Finally. Fully. And that was enough. Months later, I walked through the company lobby, past the awards wall, past the employees chatting cheerfully, past the glass doors that once felt like a barrier. I paused for a moment, watching the reflection of who I'd become. A voiceover played in my mind, one I wished I could tell my past self, the scared woman sitting beside Patricia at that first family dinner. She called me good for nothing. So I became the standard for something better. I smiled to myself, not out of pride, but out of understanding. Every insult had carved strength. Every doubt had shaped clarity. Every challenge had built resilience. I walked toward the elevator, shoulders back, heart steady. The story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rising, quietly, steadily, honestly. As the elevator doors closed, the world felt open again. Bright. Possible. Mine. If you love this story, hit subscribe for more powerful revenge stories.